Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar for today. We will be discussing a few topics. Mostly all of them are about climate change. We have main topics and subtopics. First, I would like to share with you the topics for today, what we're going to be discussing in specific, so that you can have an idea. So today's main topics that will be discussed is learning on how to teach climate change. Of course, this is meant for teachers and educators. So the first subtopic we will discuss is integrating climate change best practices, the importance of local context, tailoring climate education to community needs, developing critical thinking skills through climate debates and discussions, utilizing multimedia resources, documentaries, podcasts, and infographics, as well as assessing student understanding, effective evaluation strategies for climate education. So I will be sharing my screen and we can officially start. All right, so can everyone see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So learn on how to teach climate change. We will start with a quote by Wendell Berry, who is a farmer, a poet, and an environmentalist. The earth is what we all have in common. For our objectives, we will be going and diving deeper into integrating climate change, learning the best practices, the importance of local context, tailoring climate education to community needs, developing critical thinking skills through climate debates and discussions, utilizing multimedia resources, documentaries, podcasts, and infographics. So assessing student understanding, effective evaluation strategies for climate education. Integrating climate change best practices. So integrating climate change into various sectors and practices, ensuring that societies are better equipped to mitigate and adapt to its effects. So let's discover some of the best practices that are commonly implemented worldwide. So mainstreaming climate change into different policies. Climate considerations should be embedded in all levels of decision-making, from urban planning to national economic strategies. Governments can integrate climate goals into development plans, ensuring that climate resilience becomes a core focus. So an example of this is if cities around the world adopt the climate action plans with specific goals for reducing emissions and adapting infrastructure to not only have climate change as a topic that is discussed in a book and then the book is closed and we're done with it, but for it to be integrated within policies in the countries around the world. So promoting renewable energy adoption is also a part of climate change. To shift to renewable energy sources like solar, wind, hydroelectric power, it significantly reduced the carbon footprint. Now, countries and organizations can provide incentives such as subsidized tax rebates and grants to accelerate renewable energy adoption. So teamwork makes the dream work. An example of this is Denmark's successful integration of wind energy into its power grid, with a goal to become carbon neutral by 2050. Imagine if all the countries around the world took this incentive and implemented it, and so different organizations provided the tax rebates and grants. It would be a lot more motivational for others to start within their action towards climate change and, of course, reducing the carbon footprints. Next, we have to enhance sustainable practices in industries. So industries can implement sustainable practices. An example of this is improve energy efficiency, adopting circular economy models, and reducing waste. Utilizing technologies like carbon capture and storage, the CCS, can help also to reduce emissions. One of the big examples that almost everybody, I mean, I think not almost, but really everybody has an idea about it is Tesla. So a company such as Tesla, its main focus is innovation to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. So when they produce something, they go back to their main belief, which is what we produce cannot affect the world and earth in a negative way, and it should be sustainable energy. If we took such a practice in industries from one industry to another industry and made all industries use such a practice, such a motto or such a slogan that whatever we produce needs to be positive and needs to be not affecting the earth in a negative way, by adopting circular economy models, I'm pretty sure the waste reduction, the carbon footprint reduction would be having a huge positive effect on decreasing climate change for the future. So another best practice is to build a climate resilient infrastructure. So infrastructure development must consider climate risks such as rising sea levels, floods, and extreme weather. So now at the time that we're living, it is not that we are afraid climate change would increase. Climate change has already increased, and we can already see the effects of climate change around us. So some of these effects, examples over here written, are the rising sea levels, the floods, and extreme weathers. Examples include elevated roads in the flood-prone areas, green roofs to mitigate urban heat islands, and seawalls in coastal cities. One of the examples of this is in Netherlands, the innovative water management system protecting against sea level rise. So there is a UNEP publication demonstrating on how buildings and community spaces can be constructed to increase their resilience to climate change, especially in developing countries where structures are largely self-built. The practical guide offers construction solutions to adapt to a range of different risks in various climates. So we will be watching this video. It's a publication by the UNEP, and it basically shows us how is it that infrastructure, the changing of infrastructure, the construction of solutions can help to adapt to different range of risks that can come to us from climate change. Yep. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the video and have had an idea about exactly what we meant by making sure that the infrastructure. One thing mentioned in the video that I want to highlight again is in the video, it was saying that it is very, very important to make sure that the infrastructure in a certain place fits the local weather, the local atmosphere, because if we go from one place to another, the way that climate change affects different parts of the world is different. And so some places that have floods, there are other places that do not have floods, they have other problems. Yeah.
Excuse me, I have a problem with echo. Can you check it?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, now understandable. You had an echo problem.
Okay, okay.
No, it's
okay. Thank you. So this is basically what we meant by making sure to take care of the infrastructure. Now, let's move on and continue with our presentation. So, supporting community-led climate solutions. So, solutions that are led by a community to involve communities in climate change initiatives, ensuring locally tailored solutions that are practical and inclusive. So what is an example of that? The community-driven mangrove restoration project in Southeast Asia, which help reduce coastal erosion and enhance biodiversity. It is something that is driven by the community itself, a project by the community living in a specific place. So in this case, it's Southeast Asia, which they all help all together to reduce coastal erosion and enhance biodiversity. Now, advancing climate education and awareness. This is also one of the very, very important best practice. And I believe that many of the people visiting our webinar today are teachers. So you would know how important it is to educate people about climate change and sustainability, empowering them to make informed decisions. So schools, businesses, media campaigns, raising awareness about the impacts of climate change and steps to mitigate it. An example is the program by UNESCO, that is the Climate Change Education for Sustainable Development. So it is an entire program that is only in relative to climate change, educating about climate change, education about sustainable development, and these kinds of topics, which I think are very, very important to inform people, regardless of what they do for work, what do they teach. Integration of climate education and awareness in every subject in schools, in universities, wherever is very, very important and essential. So next we have monitoring and evaluation as a best practice. So establishing systems to monitor effectiveness of climate policies and projects and adapting them as needed. So if we establish a different system to help reduce climate change, to help reduce carbon footprint, but we do not evaluate or monitor how much of an effect that really had, then there is no need to follow such a policy. So one of the important best practices is making sure that we do have regular monitoring of the effectiveness. An example of that is the use of digital dashboards and AI to track carbon emissions and climate resilience efforts, which I'm pretty sure by now there is many AI softwares, many ways to use AI to track carbon emissions and to calculate such subjects in a very, very correct way, in a very exemplary way. So now, integrating climate best practices into the classroom. We discussed the best practices, and now we're going to learn how do we integrate those best practices into the classroom? How do we make it interesting? How do we make students want to know about it? And so we're starting with that new subtopic. So incorporating climate change into the curriculum, subject integration, embed climate topics across subjects like science, geography, and social studies, an interdisciplinary approach to combine STEM education with social ethical discussions about sustainability. So there are two different ways that we can do that. One is called subject integration. One is called interdisciplinary approach. One of them is just to embed, to join, make together climate topics and different subjects in school. Interdisciplinary approach is to combine the STEM education with the subject of social and ethical discussions about sustainability. So an example of that, for science, for example, to study the greenhouse effect, renewable energy, or carbon cycles. What if we have social studies? We can explore global policies like the Paris Agreement or examine climate justice. And so when we examine climate justice, there will be an introduction part about the climate. What is the climate change? What is happening? All of these kinds of details. And so the students will be able to get more information, even if they are doing social studies and not something in relation to science or climate change or any of that. It shall be embedded and integrated. Next, we can also encourage hands-on learning, eco-friendly projects, gardening and composting, energy audits. So conduct audits of the school's energy and resource